Dr. Marianne Brand.
Dr. Morgentaler.
It's another episode of the Sex Doctors Podcast.
It is.
Yeah, welcome everybody. We're happy to be here with you. We've got a heavier kind of topic today, but important one.
Yeah.
What do we got?
We're talking about the impact of affairs on people's sex lives.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Before we start, a small disclaimer. The Sex Doctors Podcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice.
I read an article last year by Tina Tim in the Sexual and Relationship Therapy Journal. And she spoke about in her own practice that it was actually very nuanced what happens to couples' sex lives after one person cheats. And it was a brilliantly written article. I thought she did a great job. And it's a topic we don't discuss.
Great.
Sort of everybody thinks that if someone has an affair, then their sex life in that couple, in the original couple, is going to be, sort of like ripped to shreds. Oh, yeah.
Awkward.
Which is not hard to imagine.
Sure. Really challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be for a lot of couples.
Yeah.
But that's not really the only path that people take.
Right.
And I loved reading this article because I've been doing this work for a couple of decades. And, on multiple occasions, I've heard the person who was cheated on say to me, wow, now I'm so hot for my partner. Like, is that weird? What's wrong with me? This has made me horny.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like they got a little bit of a kick in the backside, right? And not to make light of it, of course. And
right.
But they realize that their partner may have valued sexual value,
right,
out in the marketplace, if you will.
Or they stop sort of seeing their partner as a sexual being, and now they're hearing this.
Yeah.
Wow, my partner is sexual, and what am I not tapping into? Like, what am I letting go of?
Yeah. And
sometimes people use sex as a way to increase intimacy, so they feel like the affair caused a decrease in just sort of general emotional intimacy, and they're trying to get that back. So there's a lot of reasons why sex can actually get better. It doesn't for everybody. Like, that's just what the point of the article is.
Yeah.
It's actually not a one size fits all model.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I read through it, I think the author made 4 points, right? The 4 ways it can go.
Mm-hmm.
Less sex, more sex.
Yeah.
Some sexual exploration.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the 4th on this?
Sexual dysfunctions.
And then sexual dysfunction, right? Yeah.
Which isn't uncommon either.
Yeah. So I could imagine that for a guy, if his wife has stepped out on him and he's not feeling so good about himself as a result, I could imagine easily that he may have trouble getting hard again.
Absolutely.
For her.
Right. Anxiety in and of itself.
Right. Men worry so much about how do I compare to other people. There used to be this big emphasis, like on kings and whatever, how they only wanted to marry virgins.
Yeah.
And the virgin thing was, at least in part, so that there was nothing to be compared to, no comparison.
Do you know that never occurred to me?
Yeah.
It makes sense now that you say it.
Yeah. I mean, we say these things about whether or not and these are terrible ancient terms, if you will, or ancient ways of thinking about like whether or not she's been besmirched. Right.
What is that?
Well, she's no longer pure. But some of it clearly has to do with the ego of the guy.
Besmirched. That sounds like how my cat acts when I don't give him treats and he wants them. He looks besmirched.
Yeah, I don't know. He's be troubled.
He's be troubled.
He's big trouble.
Wow.
Yeah. So I could see why the sexual dysfunction would have. You think the same is true for women?
Yeah, but so the arousal problem that you're relating to, that you're talking about, is that somebody has so much anxiety they can't get erect. Yeah. But when women have that arousal problem, they can use lube often and still have sex. So it's not as obvious. And then it becomes kind of less of an anxiety in a certain way because it's, again, not so obvious. So there's that. And libido too. But so an affair can cause people to lose their interest or their desire. Sure. Yeah. So the hit to libido isn't uncommon either.
Yeah. Because, ultimately when somebody's cheating, there's a tremendous injury to trust. For sure. Right. I mean, that's the thing. So it's not that easy necessarily for couples to stay together after some of this.
Right.
And then if they do, I'm so glad we're talking about this.
Yeah.
But boy, like the sexual relationship afterwards has got to be complicated.
Very complicated. And also, for most people, it's important to address. It doesn't mean it gets addressed right away.
Right.
For some people, it does actually. So, but for others, there needs to be other sort of emotional connection that happens first before they get to sexual, as you can imagine. But it can't be ignored.
Yeah.
And that was the point the author was making. And I think it's such a good one because often as therapists will, they're so comfortable addressing the emotional aspects of cheating, but maybe less comfortable addressing the sexual, but equally important.
Oh, and I'm sure. I think most therapists, even, well, I was going to say even sex therapists, but maybe not sex therapists, but people have a hard time with sexuality.
Yeah. Yeah, people do.
Yeah. So very interesting, the idea that it can, sexuality can be actually enhanced in some.
Right. And that doesn't mean that people are weird or whatever, because that's the question. Like, what's wrong with me that this is turning me on kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it can go any number of ways.
Yeah.
So, and oftentimes people feel like, I know my sex life is so important, but I'm not ready to reconnect with my partner because I'm so caught up in whatever emotion and all of that. But I think that you don't have to have sex to address your sex life. You can address your sex life by being intimate, by sitting and touching together or slow dancing together. Like there's a lot of ways to be
like slow dancing.
Yeah. It's a very sweet thing to do. It's quiet.
Yeah.
And it's intimate.
Yeah.
And sometimes things like slow dancing together, can feel more intimate than sex because people are mindful when they're slow dancing, really mindful of their bodies touching. And that's a beautiful way to start to kind of come back together, after there's been sort of a strain to the relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So people might be listening and thinking, okay, well, so my sex life is important with my partner, but I'm so far from being able to do that. You can address your sex life in all kinds of ways, like, massaging each other mindfully is a way to kind of like sensually connect body to body.
Yeah.
That's a way to address your sex life. And in fact, for many people, stuff like that absolutely enhances their sex life eventually because they become more mindful of touch.
Yeah. Now, you probably know the stats on this. How common is cheating in a relationship?
Yeah, it's pretty well. So I'll say about a quarter of people. I often quote more like 30%. So the problem is it depends on how you define cheating. And right now we're talking about sexual or emotional affairs. But, you can cheat online by sexting a chatbot. It depends on how you define cheating.
Right. Yeah.
So if we expand the notion of cheating or the definition of cheating to be like, your avatar has sex with another avatar. Well, then there's much more than 30% of people who cheat in a relationship. So it depends on how you define it.
Right.
But if we're going to go like the kind of more traditional definition, then a quarter of people, which is a lot.
Yeah. So let me give you a for instance. So let's say in your practice, you encountered a couple. One of them had stepped out, but they still care for each other a lot. And they want to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them says to you, I don't know how I'm ever going to have sex with, let's say it's a him. I don't know ever going to have sex again with him.
Mm-hmm.
How would you approach them?
Well, I would say, that we're not there yet. Like, unless we are there, unless I've been working with them for quite a while. But if that's what she's feeling, we're not going to worry about that part right now. We're going to worry about just right here in this moment, what can be done to start to do repair work in whatever way immediately.
Okay. And let's say they do that work with you and it's going well and they're feeling trusting, or at least the injured party is back to feeling trusting, at least maybe not as much as before, but enough. And then they want to start dealing with the sexual part of their relationship. Let's say they're not having any. How do you even introduce that? What do you?
So we start by, there's a variety of important points here. One is you can start very slowly with like, just sort of like I would actually have them start by like slow dancing in the kitchen with their clothes on. And then we'd like sort of graduate to laying naked together in bed or sleeping naked together all night in bed, but no touching. And then we'd graduate to, touching breasts and, but no genitals, like this kind of thing, and just go slowly and kind of maintain that connection all the way through. I would highlight the fact that it's going to be up and down. Like that wasn't a joke. It's going to be like, there's going to be challenging moments. We can't expect there not to be.
Right.
And they're going to probably take you by surprise. So everything's going to be going fine. Then your partner's going to break into tears. Like that's going to happen. And that's why talking about it is so important. So have the expectation that it's going to be a rocky road. It doesn't mean like if you're both motivated, there's a good shot you can move forward. But it's not going to be smooth sailing. So we sort of plan for that. And what do you do when that happens? So when suddenly things go bad and somebody kind of falls into sort of a state of trauma or fear, what do you do? Well, you hold each other, you discuss it in advance. So when it happens, it doesn't throw people off.
And, going back, we were talking earlier about how easy for me to imagine a guy, if his wife or girlfriend stepped out on him, having trouble getting hard again, right? He's thinking, oh my God, how do I compare? She's turned on by him.
Right.
That's why he was having sex with him, not with me. His hands were over her. Like he can't get it up. Mm-hmm. What would you do with that?
So, well, one of the things that I often do for guys who have a lot of anxiety, that anxiety is absolutely understandable, but it's not going to go away automatically.
Right.
It's just going to be there for a while. So we agree that anxiety is going to be there for a while and we're not going to fight it. We're just going to let it be. We talk to the partner about the fact that that's normal and it's going to happen. And, that doesn't mean that the two of you can't be intimate. I also encourage guys to talk to a urologist about getting some support, like with medicine, because that can help deal with the anxiety. And it's like, it's not a crutch. It's a short-term Band-Aid to help get through that anxiety to get to a point where, maybe you don't need the medicine anymore, but I see no problem using medication like Viagra in that way.
Yeah.
Zero problem.
Yeah. So we deal with that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. For one reason or another, whether it's anxiety or somebody's cheated or something like that. So the pills can be great.
Right.
Yeah. And you have to take them well. One thing I tell people is never, with a lot of medicines, we start in low dose and we move up. Mm-hmm. I do the opposite.
I love this.
I do the opposite. You start with the full dose.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's too much, who cares? But the problem is we start too low and it's not enough of an effect. The guy loses confidence that the medicine's going to work for him. Right. So the next time, even though it might be a good dose for him, he's busy thinking it's not going to work for me. Either the brain still has to be turned on for those pills to work, Viagra and Cialis.
So you're full dose. You're the only urologist I've ever heard with that approach. And others will say, well, I don't want to give him too many side effects, so I don't want to do that. But you just warn the guy. You just say, look, we're going to overshoot.
These medications are so safe. The side effects are what we call nuisance side effects, right? So you can get a headache, heartburn. I mean, these are the main problems. Mm-hmm. You can deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. Headache, you take some Tylenol or something like that. Yeah. Right. So full dose, and then that usually helps. And you can't take it just 5 minutes before you think activity is going to happen. Best on an empty stomach. Best give it at least half an hour to an hour before.
Mm-hmm. And they have to be excited.
If they're not excited, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. So that's good. And even if the pills don't work, there's medicines that men can learn to inject in the penis. Sounds awful. Doesn't go in the head, goes in the shaft. It's not that sensitive. It's really painless, spin around for longer than the pills spin around, mm-hmm. and is more effective.
People like the people that I've worked with that use those injections. They like their. They
love their.
It's really no big deal to them.
Love their injections. They get really hard and last a long time.
Yeah.
And it's less dependent on their mental state, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. whether they're turned on or not.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really true. So that's an interesting point, whether you're turned on or not, whereas Viagra depends on people being turned on.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. But what do you say? So apart from that, mm-hmm. do you have, for the guy who's like, he's all freaked out about his wife being with somebody else, what do you say to that guy? So yes, he can take the pills. Hopefully that helps.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got this imagery of her with another guy that's killing it.
Wow. So you're saying, like, what do you do when someone's got an imagery issue?
Yeah.
So mindfulness meditation it's a solution. It's not a fast one, but learning to do mindfulness meditation means you sort of like allow what your brain is doing, but refocus on your body anyway. So just like, we wouldn't fight the anxiety, we wouldn't fight the image either, but we get people practice at getting back into their body, focusing like on their genitals or eye contact with their partner. So don't fight it. Reconnect with your body, reconnect with your partner, and just sort of like just keep coming back to that experience. And people get better at not getting so freaked out by imagery when they do that. But that requires like daily practice, like 10 minutes a day of mindfulness practice. But that's good for everything. You know, it's good for our emotional health. It's good for our bodies and relaxation. So it's such a good investment in time.
Yeah. And what about the partner that stepped out?
Mm-hmm.
What can they do to make things go better?
So, first of all, genuinely forgiving and making authentic efforts at apology, is really important. But then it's different for every couple. So I don't want to put everybody in sort of one category, but it's about being really conscious of tending to your partner, focusing on your partner, loving your partner well. These are not just terms. These are things that we learn to do with body language and eye contact and word. Can I touch you? That's really kind of fun. But, taking that process very seriously, that these things aren't just light switches that turn on and off.
Yeah. I would think it'd be very important for the hurt partner to hear that the other partner still finds them attractive, cares for them, right?
That's good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Says something, compliments them on whatever there is to compliment, right?
These issues also can be complicated in a variety of ways. For example, Justin Lehmiller, who's a Kinsey researcher, was writing about some of his research where the most common person that a married individual will have an affair with is someone they know.
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine the complexity of that? So that means that
has to happen all the time, right? You always hear about somebody with her best friend, his best friend.
Exactly.
Brother.
Somebody at work all the time.
Brother, sister.
Right. Yeah. All the time you hear that. So when I read that, I was like, God, that makes so much sense. I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
But that adds a whole other level of complexity.
Absolutely.
Now there's someone that's in their life. So this stuff, we're addressing the sex piece, but there are so many other pieces that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
We're just, as the sex doctors,
right.
We're just talking about that.
Yeah. Now, one of the ways in which people can react that the author,
Tina
Tim wrote about was that sex can be enhanced. Mm-hmm. Can you say something about that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So sometimes what people do is they sort of want to turn over a new leaf together and expand their sexual repertoire and sort of be more creative together and more perhaps vulnerable together. And the more creative and vulnerable they allow themselves to be, generally passion rises. And so it actually can have that kind of impact of increasing passion by engaging in more creative sexual activity.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but everybody's different.
Yeah. I hesitate to say this, which probably means I shouldn't say it, but there's opportunity often in every crisis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That doesn't mean that cheating is a good thing. It's
right.
It's probably the most traumatic thing that can happen to a couple.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of damage that can happen, but sometimes there are a lot of couples who are just drifting along. right? And their marriage is neither good nor bad. It's kind of nowhere. And they've been in it for a long time. And if the couple, if both partners are actually dedicated to each other, this thing can be overcome. And it can sometimes be a stimulus, I think, to actually make things even better.
Right. Because it forces people to talk about what wasn't good and how can we love each other better.
Right. You can create a rededication out of it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Dr. Brandon.
Dr. Morgentaler.
It's always great to see you.
You too. You too.
And thus ends another episode of the Sex Doctors Podcast. You can find us on the sexdoctorspodcast.com. Give us a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Like us, and we hope to see you again.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.